Hello, good afternoon from London here. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We're going to be presenting to you today, or welcome to this webinar today, presented to you from Open Destinations. Today we're going to introduce our light reservations product or reservations management platform, Travel Builder. So if I just jump through a couple of quick slides here. We're just going to talk through a little bit about the agenda and introduce the hosts before giving you a little bit of background to the business Open Destinations before one of my colleagues here, Adam, is going to jump into a live demo of that platform for you. We're going to be focusing today around how Travel Builder is used by inbound tour operators and destination management companies. So we'll be focusing on certain areas around our B2B area of our CRM, as well as sales processes in that world. We will also then leave some time, hopefully at the end, for some questions and answers. So we'll go through that in a moment about how that's going to work. So myself, my name is Tom. I work in the commercial team here at Open Destinations. I run things such as webinars and consultations with travel businesses in order to find the right solutions for you. And we've also got Adam, who I'll allow to introduce himself.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I'm Adam Buckmaster. Good to have you all here. Worked for Open Destinations for over 10 years now, before which time I worked in a tour operator myself. And here at Open Destinations, I work with developing our products, including Travel Builder that you're going to see today, and also managing the teams who train up our clients and users of Travel Builder so that they can get the best out of the product.
Thanks very much. We've also got Nick here today as well, who's been coordinating the webinar, and he's going to be running a few things behind the scenes for us as Adam and I go through the presentation. There will also be an opportunity to participate in the webinar. So Nick will be posting some questions. He'll also be posting some polls for you to respond to. They should pop up into your screen. So we do ask you to participate in those. In terms of any sort of other additional housekeeping, the chat should be turned off, just for your knowledge. So you should be able to contact the host directly, or answer into the polls and questions that Nick puts through, but they will just be sent through to ourselves. We're just doing that today because we are recording the session, so we're just keeping everybody anonymous in the session as we go through. So just a little bit about Open Destinations. We're a privately owned business. We were actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. And during that time, we've grown to be a global business. We've got around about 600 members of staff in our team, headquartered here in London. But we also do have a engineering center and business support center out in Goa in South India. Over that time, we've built up a large customer base of well over 100 installations of our reservation system, as well as customers in our other sort of services as well. Those customers are positioned all over the world, everywhere from West Coast US all the way through Europe and down through Asia and into Australia. And so it's really important that we do offer that 24-hour support, so that you can access our team any time of the day, no matter what your time zone is. And just pushing through then, just to give you a little bit of an overview as to the types of solutions we offer. We're going to be focusing today on Travel Builder, which is our reservation system that you can see down the bottom left-hand side of your screen. We do also have a complementary product to that, Travel Studio. We do have additional module to both of those products as well, which is Tinnery. And there'll be an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Tinnery at a later date. Tinnery is a mobile platform that allows you to push your itineraries from your reservation platform, Travel Builder or Travel Studio, and really enhance your customer experience and guest experience by giving them access to their itineraries, information, feedback forms and chats and so on with your team as well. And we do also offer business support services. So we run various different finance operations, customer service operations, or even sort of operational things such as data loading as well into reservation systems behind the scenes to really empower your business to grow. Just in terms of the types of customers that we work with, I think the key ones really to pick out from today that might sort of bring about a little bit of relevance to you is Destination Asia, one of the largest DMCs, or I think the largest DMC actually out in Asia, as well as obviously Mickey Travel as a large DMC as well. We do have a variety of customers from large businesses to a number of small ones as well. As I said, there's well over 100 customers using our reservations platforms today. And just trying to keep this as short as possible to make sure we leave enough time for Adam to go through the demo. I'm just going to give you one final, just quick overview of Travel Builder, just to give you a bit of contextual information about how it sits across your business. So Travel Builder really does span all functions of your business. At the bottom, we've got your various different suppliers that we're going to go through and load and show you how they're loaded and stored within the system, so that you can start building those itineraries for quotes, sending them out through various different sales channels. That can be through call centers or contact centers if you answer inquiries via email. We also have a various different e-commerce solutions in the B2B world, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. We've got a portal where your customers can log in and access their specific rates and products that you have on offer for them and manage those as inquiries or bookings. We do also have a B2C solution as well, which again, there'll be an opportunity to learn about those at another time. So I don't think I want to hold off any further. So at that point, I'm going to hand back over to Adam, who's going to start running through our Travel Builder solution.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Just going to share my screen so we can jump into a demo environment of Travel Builder that we thought would be a good way to show you some of the functions and some of the key features of the software, so that you can visualize how that might be applicable to your business. Obviously, we've got attendees to this webinar from all over the world. Again, welcome, and hope you find this interesting. If you do have questions through the session, then do put them to us, and we'll have some time at the end, having gone through a quick demo of various areas to tackle them. So what you're seeing on the screen now is what you would see logging into Travel Builder every morning. And so within your organization, you would have a number of users who would then log into the system. So I'm going to log in as me, and ABC Tours here is my fictional DMC. So a little bit about the navigation of the system, and then I'll briefly just go over the different points I'm going to take you through in this demo. Once you log in, each user would land on this dashboard where they can get an overview of what's relevant to them within the business. So this Travel Builder application is completely browser based, and we host it in Microsoft Azure. So it's a hosted solution. So obviously you can log in from anywhere. And then as soon as you log in, as I say, we get these dashboard items, or we call them widgets, where you get some quick shortcuts into various tasks that you might be undertaking. So if you're on the product team or on contracting, there are some links through to some pre-built itineraries, for example, Rome and Tuscany, unknown Tuscany. You can probably tell we're going with an Italian theme today, but this can of course be applicable to you wherever you do business, whichever your destination or destinations. So we can see shortcuts to different products here. We can see bookings created. So these are the most recent files we've got with various clients. We're going to focus on a B2B scenario today, but as Tom mentioned, Travel Builder does also handle any direct bookings you take from in a B2C format. So what we're looking at here is a number of the recent bookings that my user Adam B has made, and they've got a reference which is ABC 28, ABC 27. Again, there's some customization. You can come up with different letters for different parts of your business, if that makes sense to identify those bookings. So we'll come back and see an example of one of those bookings and talk you through a little bit of the life cycle that you'd follow within Travel Builder. You can kick off new bookings from this widget over here, and you can also see how you're doing so far today or this month on the sales front. So you can see your bookings, your inquiries, by me as Adam B, or by all users within your team. So that's really just it's customizable in terms of what you can see, but there are a number of these different widgets which you can per user switch on and switch off within to customize your view of that dashboard. Then just to continue giving you a flavor of the kind of data that you would hold within Travel Builder. So this would all be your data. We just host the solution for you. So that's anything from your product set, so your direct contracts. Again, we'll have a look at some examples of these. The suppliers that you work with. Travel Builder will allow you to load those in, load any rates and agreements that you have with them in order to then use them in proposals that you put together for your clients. On the client side, as I say, we do the system will allow you to deal with your B2B clients, but also your direct clients. So in the system, we name those agents and passengers. So again, we'll have a look at an example of a client record, and we will go through the scenario of building a proposal for that client from the product that you've loaded in Travel Builder. Beyond that, there's a reporting suite, and there is a financial side to the system that we'll talk a little bit about as we go through making a booking. Worth also mentioning, as we briefly saw here on the dashboard, that you can also, once you've loaded in your suppliers, you can package them together as preset itineraries, whether that is a template for a starting point that you normally offer as a 7-day itinerary, for example, or a 3-day itinerary in Rome. You can package those together and then quickly add them to a proposal and get that out to your client. Or you can add each individual supplier and each individual service ad hoc to come up with a custom built itinerary. So this menu up at the top is always visible wherever you are in the system, and you're always going to be within the same browser tab. So here we can also jump to already open screens. So these are screens that I already have open. We're going to look at a hotel screen, an agent or client screen, and we can either access those from this menu by simply clicking through. For example, clicking on service will take us to the service search. And when we talk about services in Travel Builder, these are all of your accommodation services, excursions. And when I say these are the ones that you use in your itineraries as supplied by whomever you're paying for that service. So it could be a hotel company, it could be an individual guide, it could be another DMC. But the assumption here is that these are all your own direct contracts that you're loading in order to be able to use them again and again on proposal after proposal. So what we're looking at here is all of the services that you've loaded within the Italy area. And of course, every DMC is different, a different specialist in different destinations. In our demo environment, we've loaded in Italy and Australasia and Middle East. But for you, that would start out as a blank canvas, which you would then build up within the system down to country and region and city level in order that you can segment your product. But we'll come back to that, because first I want to concentrate on actually building the proposal, which is one of the key points of the functionality of Travel Builder, is that it lets you build those proposals really quickly, having loaded in the data of the products and loading in your client records. You can very quickly build an itinerary. So that's what we're going to do today. we'll just go back to the home page, and we can then search in this top bar any page to which your logged in user has access. You can search for a quick way to go to that page. So if it's to do with packages, you can type package, and as you can see, you can create new ones or search for existing ones. If we search for agent, that's our name in Travel Builder for your B2B clients. So we've loaded here a couple of examples that you may or may not work with. Whichever companies you do work with, you would load and categorize here in the system. So under different types or groups, this is the screen where you can obviously search by various criteria. You can search by their address or whether they're active or inactive, which group they're part of. So so we're going to start this scenario by going into a customer record, a client record. So whether it's because you're on the phone to them then and there, or they've sent you a request by email, this is a record within Travel Builder, which again you would have loaded this or imported this from a spreadsheet in order to get your Travel Builder database loaded with records. But then within each of these client records, this one's for trail finders. Again, you may or may not work with them. Other agents are available. They are then, this is where you maintain things like the name of the company, a short name reference that you can use within the system to find them, their logo, so that any proposals you do send them can be nicely branded with both your and their logo. Down here, we've got a user login, and that speaks to the online part, the B2B portal that Tom mentioned briefly earlier. So we'll come back to that. But there's the thing to take away from this is that there's lots of information that you can store in here about this company. So from their address to the contacts that you deal with. For example, if you deal with Bob at Trail Finders, you might deal with a number of different people. You can categorize them by job title. You can even maintain their user login, as I just mentioned, and you can add in things like phone numbers, addresses, email, and so on. Beyond that, wherever I see tabs here across the top, there's a different screen within this agent record that I can manage. So you can see, we won't have time to go through all of it, but you can see, as suggested by some of the names of the different tabs here, that you can add in notes, or you can hold notes about this client. Perhaps if you've got an agreement contract with them, you can upload it even as an attachment. You can indicate whether they're a member of an association or a group of some sort. And you can even use Travel Builder to log any complaints or even positive feedback that you receive from them, as well as, and this is the one I'm going to go into, as well as view the bookings that that you already have in the system for them. So we've already done a number of files, if you like, of proposals which may or may not have turned into bookings. These are all on option. The idea is that then they'd move through to confirmed, or they might be cancelled. And the more business you do with this client, the more this would populate, and it will quickly show you things like the total outstanding, how much you've invoiced them, how much they've paid. And that way, here at the bottom, you can see those totals, which will just give you an at a glance idea of how business is going with this client. So from here, what we can do is we can kick off a new proposal process. So the idea here is that they may have emailed in with a new request for a particular itinerary, and at this point, the system then allows you to capture this as a new file. So it's going to generate a number. It's going to ask us, well, who at Trailfinders is this for? It's for Bob. If it's for someone that you haven't got in the system yet, you can add the name on the fly. The rest of the details here, there's obviously a lot of fields here, but most of them will populate based on the client that you enter. So we enter Trailfinders, it immediately knows that we want to quote to them in pound sterling. If you'd entered a US agency, this would then populate with USD, and so on and so forth. So you can use the system to sell in multiple currencies. What we can do from here, or what we have to do at this point, is we have to indicate a start date, even if that's just an indicative one at this point, so that we can proceed with the booking. We put the start date in. What that's going to drive is if I enter an April date, when I start adding products in, it's going to be looking at the seasonal rates that you've loaded for your products, so for your contracts there within the system. At this point, also having put in a date, I also have to give an indicative number of packs, and I do so by occupancy. So if we know that there's 2 and each of them wants single rooms, we can put 2 in single. Likewise, if the group also includes 4 people in twin, we put the number of packs in here, and you can extend this to other occupancies as well, such as triple and quad, as you can see. And you can manage even multi-bedded dorm rooms, that sort of hostel-like accommodation as well. At this point, because it's just a quotation for a B2B client, you won't necessarily know the names at this point. If you did, then you can leverage the CRM functionality within Travel Builder to pull in details of a repeat client. So if you have a traveler who is already in your system, you can easily pull their details in here, along with date of birth if you have it, nationality, etc. Or you can also type that information in manually. But I suppose the assumption is at this point is that you don't know, and frankly, you probably don't care at this point what who the travelers are going to be, because the main goal here is to send out a proposal to your B2B client. So to that end, what we have here is a skeleton itinerary. So I gave a start date, and I said that I wanted a 3-night or 4-day itinerary, and here I have my blank itinerary. So at this point, we've generated, or the system has generated, a booking reference, which is ABC 29. As I said before, the ABC part, you can decide. So for each of you, if you were to take on Travel Builder, you would decide what your prefix would be, and the system would append a number, and that becomes the reference by which you refer to this file from your side. There's also other fields where you can capture the reference that your client might have for it. So there's we know that there are multiple references by which a booking goes. So this is the one that Travel Builder helps you create. So again, as you saw before, this bar along the top will tell you key things about the booking, so you don't need to look into detail. And as we add products to our proposal and send something out to the client, we'll see the cost and sell will accrue based on the contract rates that you've loaded against each one of those. So let me bring that to life by populating this 4-day blank itinerary that could be anywhere with some product. So the way we do that is with these buttons along the top. This allows us to modify the itinerary either by adding days or adding items within a day. We're going to go straight for the add service button, because that will let us do a search across various parameters. So it's defaulted to Italy as my preferred destination. I can drill down a bit further into Rome, into Tuscany. For the purpose of the demo, I'm just going to search for all of Italy. But this is something that, obviously if you search for a wider area, it's going to bring back more product. If you narrow that down to Rome, as I can here, then we will find a much smaller product set. And again, all of this product here is coming from the data that you've loaded. These are your contracts with your rates, and it's giving you here an idea of what the from price is based on the information it knows already. So the date, which season that falls in, whether you've said 2 people in single or 2 people in twin. So you can expand out and you can see the different available rooms. You might want to put those 2 people into a twin room, or you might want to you might want to add more people and room them in a triple. So at this point, if you're unsure which one you want to add, there are more details which are again pulling from that the Star Hotels Metropole record, which we'll have a look at a little bit later. But at this point, as I say, we're concentrating on getting these products into our itinerary, which we can then very quickly get out as a proposal to our client. So at this point, having selected which hotel you want, you're then selecting from the available room types. And I'll come back to the word available in a minute. But along with the room types, we'll also have visibility of any what we call extras, or what in Travel Builder are called extras. which an example of which could be porterage, or anything which is supplementary to the room rate. Might be a breakfast, or it might be a half board supplement. So we could also add this in. We'll leave it just as the room only for now, again just to focus on the speed of compiling this itinerary. And obviously this could be a multi-center trip. I've just made this a 3-night trip, and I'm evidently going to be going to Rome, but this could be a 10-day itinerary which does Rome, Florence, Venice, and so I can control within the trip where I'm going, which suppliers I'm adding, which services I'm adding, and also even within the group. Although clearly this is just a group, a couple of people. If this was a group of perhaps 6, then maybe in Florence 2 people might be going to one hotel and 4 people might be going to another. So I think at this early stage, it's all about just populating that itinerary. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to within the dates of our itinerary, we're going to add in a restaurant. So on the 21st, we're going to go and pick from the available restaurants. Now, there's only one available here. You would probably have more results come back. It's also showing as available. So I said I'd come back to this word. When you're loading in the product, you can load in either allocation or allotment that the supplier has given you. And again, in combination with the date and the client, Travel Builder will indicate to you whether that client has access to that allotment, or it could be that in the case of a restaurant that you normally send groups to, and perhaps that there's going to be availability, you can auto set that to always assume it's available. You can still then double check with the supplier, but this will allow you to add the restaurant in a very similar way to how we added the hotel, although the difference being that at a restaurant it might be a case of different menus, maybe vegetarian menu or chicken menu. We've put here menu A, B, C, and you can drill in for further information about that. But it's really just to give you an idea of having selected the property, if you like, or then drilling into what exact option, we call it, within that service you're going to offer. And this is also bringing through the rates that you've loaded, and those rates are showing in GBP because we're quoting to Trailfinders, but behind the scenes it's converting your euro contract rates into GBP using your exchange rates that you would have defined. So we've already predefined that in the system, but you would have complete control over the exchange rates that you want to use between your buying rate, for example, in euros, if we're in Rome, and your selling rates. So you might have one in pounds, one in dollars, or you might have a dynamic one, which will just use your exchange rate to convert to the relevant currency within the system. So we can see our itinerary already building up. It's gone from a blank itinerary into something containing some product, which is good, and that's the name of the game. After that, we can come in here and we can add a couple more. I'll expand this out to Italy just so we get a bit more product coming back. And I'll select this on the 22nd. And you can see here service type. Again, it's something that we've put some examples in there, but we'd imagine that you'd have accommodation, excursion, guide, restaurant, but these are things that, if there are some that you don't use, you can remove, and if there are additional ones that you absolutely must have, then we can work with you to add them in. It's just a configuration switch that you add in. So here we are. Obviously, some of these are in Rome, some of these are outside, and you can see the geolocation over here. We're going to add something in Rome just to keep it consistent. And again, we can see that availability, which, as I said before, might be driven by your allotment or might be driven by whether you can get availability. So if we add Vatican Museum, because I'm very happy to see that there is availability there. There isn't always. Then it's a case of is it if it's a single ticket, then that's fine, because that single ticket, again, you'll notice if there is child pricing involved, Travel Studio will help you manage that. So you might have a family group of 2 adults and 2 children. You would still only see this one line item, but you would have been able to load that the child has a 50% discount up until the age of 12, for example. So this is just bringing through the per person rate as you've loaded it. And again, we'll just be adding it to the itinerary. So obviously we could go on adding different components, different services to our itinerary. The net result, and this just happens to be with the same supplier, but the net result is that you have this ever expanding itinerary, which you can play around with. You can add a day to the end, you can add a day to the start, you can add a day in the middle, and you can move things around as well. Luckily for me, what I've added here is coming through with a big green tick on the status, so I can see that that's confirmed from allocation, and I can check which allocation it's come from and that I've consumed 2 single rooms from my allocation. I can also see over here that it's confirmed. However, it's not always going to be the case that the system can always tell you that something's confirmed. You might have to go off to the supplier to request that service. They might not be able to provide it, in which case you'd come back in here and change the supplier. But we'll talk in a minute about how you would use and leverage Travel Builder to communicate with the supplier and also with the client. So at this stage, we'll perhaps add one more for good luck. But as you can see, it's just a case of building up your itinerary. We can add in perhaps a guide. As I say, it's not an exhaustive list. It's just depending on what you're searching for and how granular you want to be. We can add in a Rome guide here to go along with our visit to the Vatican. And it will give us the option of, is it a full day or is it a half day? That's clearly carrying different costs as well. And we're going to put them both on the half day because they're definitely going to be doing the same thing together. And that completes our mini itinerary. So as you can see, it's pretty quick to put the content in there, or rather to pull in the content into this proposal for the client. Then if at this point you do want to get into more operational considerations, you can do things like enter the start time. So particularly with a visit to the Vatican, it's you can often predict what the time would be. You might equally want to wait until you've confirmed this with the client, but just to show you that as I edit the time down at the bottom, it then shows in my itinerary. So this is really an itinerary checker that you can use to check, for example, are the services confirmed? Does the system know who's doing what? Well, if it's only 2 people and they're all doing the same thing, then it's easy for the system to work out. But if you had, as I said before, a group of 6 and 4 people were doing the Vatican, but 2 people were going to the Colosseum, then you could also manage it that way. And in that case, this assignment green color would show yellow because it's only partially assigned. So that's really a very quick way of building that itinerary. If it's just a case at this point of getting that itinerary out to the client, then I think one of the main benefits of using Travel Builder is that once you have your document template for how you want to send this proposal out to the client, you can very quickly use that template and merge it with the itinerary that you've just created. So what I'm doing here is I've said I want to send a message, which is essentially starting off the process of sending an email to the client with the proposal inside, and you can send that as an attachment or you can send it within the body of the email. What you can see here is if I start typing confirmation, it's showing me all of the different templates which are set up, and I'll show you an example of how that comes out. But you would use Travel Builder to send out your proposals to the client, your confirmations, your invoices to the client, and you would also use it to send your requests to the suppliers that you want to be able to provide the services in this itinerary. In doing so, you can see that if I select the client confirmation, it already knows which email address it's going to send to. Obviously, we haven't got the real addresses in here, but you would. So you would use this as a way of managing your outbound trip-related communication to send to either the agent, your client, or if we type in the supplier request, then when I select this, it knows that it's going to go to the supplier. It's already pulling through their email address again, which is a test in this example. And if you wish to CC to carbon copy someone else on the email, you can type in their address as well. So this can be quite useful if you're putting this together today, but perhaps you're off tomorrow and your colleague's picking up this this piece of business. They can log into this booking ABC29 and they can see exactly what you've sent. So just by way of example, it could be, and these are just examples of the kind of information that you can pull. It can be a combination of images, of descriptive text. So all of these, the Colosseum image, the restaurant image, the hotel of the Star Hotels image, and the address and the phone number, that's all pulling through from your own database, which you would have loaded with this information to start with. So it really is as simple as selecting which template you want to send and then clicking generate. And this is going to pull back, the name of the agent, or it could be the name of the contact, Bob, within the agent. And it's going to bring booking or file specific references and data into that template, so that although you still can come in here and, in Word, you can then modify anything you want to modify, it means that you can get these documents out pretty quickly and emailed out, so you can send this off, and then that will queue up to be sent outbound from the system, and it will be retrievable from your messages tab. So it says there that your message has been queued, and you can see whether that's been sent off, and then your client, if you're sending a proposal, or your supplier will then email back to you. And although Travel Builder doesn't then receive the inbound email, the way that people would normally do this is that they'd link their own email address to it. So you would receive the inbound email. So if it's a supplier confirming something, you could come in here and you could say, yep, that's confirmed. And the service reference that they've given me is ABC123. Okay, so this is just a few pointers as to the kind of functions you can use within the system to keep track of how your proposal is going. What we haven't said yet is whether obviously having sent that document, what's the client going to do? They're probably going to come back with some modifications, at which point, maybe a day's gone by at that point, we can jump back into the booking. So we call it a booking even if the client hasn't confirmed, because we hope they will, but it's currently on option. So we can go back into that booking, and then from the home tab, we can see things like notes popping up to remind us of things we need to do. But we can also start taking money. We can raise invoices. So a little bit more about that in a second. If the client indicates they want to go ahead, we can manage the status up here. So we go to the header tab within this section of tabs, and we can say, yep, that's now confirmed. So once the client's confirmed, and the system just checks that I want to change it. Once the client's confirmed, that's when you can start taking money, whether it's by bank transfer or even by credit card. We do have a number of payment gateway integrations as well. But this is where you can begin to manage the financial side of the booking, in terms of how much you're going to make from this booking, what the total cost, and I'm up here in the top right, if you can see, what the total cost will be to you of this booking as it stands, what the total sell will be to the client, and what the resulting margin that you would make is. So a 26.87% margin here is reflecting also down here in the details section, which shows you what your forecast margin is. Now, that will only become real margin once you start taking money as a receipt and also paying money to your suppliers, both of which Travel Builder will help you understand how much you're meant to charge and how much you're meant to pay, based on, again, the rates that you've added in. A little point there, just to make clear, Travel Builder itself is not an accounting system, so you would still need to use your current method of actually making and taking the payments. But Travel Builder would become your barometer, if you like, your guide as to how much you owe the supplier based on any changes that you may have made to the contracted rates, and also how much you're going to be charging your client. So you can raise the receipt this way just to indicate that you've actually received that money. So it might have been in cash, it might have been by credit, it might have been as a bank transfer, and you can put the whole amount, or you can indicate that you've received 20% of the booking, and you can save that against the booking. So there's a raft of financial functions that you can perform within the system, but it works in tandem with your current accounting system, whether that's Sage, Sun Accounts, Xero. Over the years, with numerous clients, we've integrated where necessary with external accounting providers, but you can also very easily generate an export which would export all of your sales transactions and all of your purchase approved transactions that you're paying your suppliers for, and then that would go into a format that is then able to be imported into your accounting tool. Okay, so I think at that point I can really wrap up on the itinerary build, because as you've seen, it's quick to put together. Clearly, there are going to be amendments to make, and so you can make those amendments, whether it's an amendment to your cost. So down here we can see what the cost is, what the sell is. You can change the rate of exchange. You can change your margin, and as we've seen, you can indicate whether that's confirmed or on request, and so on and so forth. You can also start taking or finalize taking that passenger information that we saw. So let's say I was going with my brother on this one and we both wanted separate rooms. You can either, I suppose realistically, you're getting this information from your client, so you want minimal touch points on this. So if it is a larger group and you want to get that, you want to outsource that information and getting that information, then you can use a simple import process. So there is an Excel file which you can publish to your clients and say, if you provide me the passenger information in this format, I can simply import it in to this booking. So with minimal fuss, I've got my passenger information, anything from names and date of birth to passport information, dietary requirements, etc. That all of that's managed within here. Okay, so a very, very brief overview there of an itinerary and how that looks and how easy that is to put together. Just one thing I wanted to cover off before I hand back to Tom and Nick, which is that all of the information you saw me pulling into the itinerary there, whether it was the hotel or the restaurants or the guide or excursion, that's all been loaded into the system. So that's something that in your world, that's something you would load into the into Travel Studio as Travel Builder, and that's something that we obviously train you on how to build it, but it's a common process, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a guide. So this is just an example of one of those. So this is the star hotels that we added into the itinerary there. Again, tabs across the top with different information, and you can tell by the names of the tabs what kind of information is in there. But let me just draw attention to the most common, the most useful. So there's anything from the name of the hotel, the description that you want to appear on the documentation, to the currency that you're going to be paying them in, the ratings. So it could be a star rating, or it could be a rating that you have, you know, whether it's good for families, whether it's good for groups, etc. Again, through addresses and contacts, but also the room types that you've contracted with the supplier. So it might be something simple like single room, twin room, triple room, or it might be double room deluxe, double room upgrade. So first of all, they're listed here. So you're telling the system what different product you're getting from this hotel, what amenities or facilities there are, and then crucially to how Travel Builder works and generates the rates for your proposals. This is effectively where you load in the contract information. So the contract that you have with suppliers, whether they're hotel suppliers or guides, is loaded in here. So if you have the edit access to come in here and edit this, you would load in the room rate, so per room per night, per person per night, however the hotel charges it, you can manage that within Travel Builder here, putting in the rates in whichever currency they may be, for the rooms, for any supplements like porterage. And then importantly, you can take those buying rates and you can mark them up in as many different ways as you would like. And by that, I mean that you could have a sort of rack rate or a standard rate, where you've already marked up the hotel rate, you've already marked up the guide rate, so that each component that you add into your itinerary already has a neat markup, giving you a nice total at the end of the trip. Equally, you might say that with Star Hotels, you want to sell to the UK market with one price, but to the US market with a different price. And whether that's a bigger or smaller margin, I would leave that up to you. Indeed, Travel Builder allows you to be flexible with the margins and the markups that you apply. And also, we've put in a contract here which is valid all year. But if the hotel gives you lots of different seasons, you can manage that, whether it's high, low, shoulder to A, B, C, D, premium fare rates. That can all be managed within the system. And then year on year, this would be the home of all the rates you've had with the Star Hotels Metropole, for example, or any other supplier. As well as managing things like tax and managing what meals are included, as well as the allotment that I mentioned earlier. So we won't go into these tabs just because there isn't enough time, but I think this is where all of your contract information you have with the supplier would go into the system, so that you can get the most out of it, to minimize that manual editing that you would otherwise have to do with perhaps your current ways of quoting. So this is something I just wanted to come back to, because it closes the circle nicely, I think, between the client side of the database, the proposal or quotation side of the application, and also the product side. So really, it's the combination of your product with your client database and how you want to sell to them, and the ability to quickly put together those quotations, which I think really sets Travel Builder apart. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Tom opposite me.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you very much. Just while I am sharing my screen, I believe Nick has pushed in through some polls into the chat. There's also an opportunity, if you haven't done so already, to drop some questions into the Q&A tab at the top. I'm just going to run through the last couple of slides here just to close off and answer any questions as we go through. So hopefully you should now all be seeing my screen back up in front of you. So I guess the key things, after having seen a little bit of an overview today of how Travel Builder can help you, as Adam was sort of saying and demonstrating, manage your suppliers, manage your customers, and then manage your reservations and bookings, is really about how we can help install the software into your business and ensure that you're set up with it to use in the most efficient way. So we do run an implementation program with Travel Builder. It takes around about 12 weeks, or at least it should take less than 12 weeks. I mean, I'm sure there might be an opportunity to discuss that in a little bit more detail with you, how that works in terms of your specific business. But in terms of how we typically run it, this will involve one of our implementation consultants spending some time one-on-one with you and your team, understanding your business. We have a number of standard setups with Travel Builder, which will then our implementation consultants will recommend the best possible way of using those in your circumstances. And then they'll provide you with a hybrid model of training, which will involve running live demonstrations and training workshops via Microsoft Teams or another sort of digital online delivery platform. And That'll be in combination with a variety of pre-recorded training plans that we have live in our sort of database, along with some online documentation, user manuals and guides and so on and so forth that can really supplement that all together. That I would say is probably around about six weeks worth of the training. There's also a little bit of support that we'll provide you during that as well, in terms of you'll go away and practice what we teach you, and you'll start loading that data in. And obviously, you'll come back to us with questions as we go through that to ensure that you're ready to go at the end of that training program. There is a cost associated with the training. It's usually a one-off cost, but we're also offering at the moment to be able to spread that cost over the course of the year. So there's an £835 per month cost for the training and implementation, which ends then at the end of your first year using the platform. In terms of software, there is a cost obviously to the software itself. A lot of what you've seen today is the core base system that's included in the system, and that starts at a price of £950 per month, including up to 5 users on the system. We do have a number of optional modules available as well, which we'll happily discuss with you. It'll be things such as that B2B portal that you might have heard us talk about before, and various other sort of aspects, but we can run through that with you on a one-to-one basis, which I guess sort of leads me on to what our next steps are if this is an interesting solution to you. And it really is going through that demo, perhaps in a one-to-one basis, taking some of your examples or example itineraries and working through how that might look with Travel Builder. And we'll do that on a consultative basis to identify if there are any optional modules that might be of interest to you as well. There should be a poll in the chat in a moment or so. So if you are able to just click onto that if it is of interest. Alternatively, you're more than welcome to send us an email. There'll be our contact details at the end. Just before I do let you go, I did mention earlier that we were focusing today around Travel Builder in that B2B format of sort of DMCs and inbound tour operators. We're running another demo tomorrow, actually, tomorrow afternoon at the same time, where Adam's going to be taking a lot of what we've done today, but using some slightly different scenarios. So we'll be using the B2C form of our CRM, so you can see how that comes to life with direct customers. We'll also be looking at slightly different ways of building itineraries. So we were showing you today how we were building custom or tailor-made itineraries. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking a little bit into set itineraries or for small groups, for example, if you run small group departures, where you'll have the opportunity to obviously provide upsells or slight customizations to those itineraries as well. And the final webinar in our series of sessions that we're running at the moment, we'll be looking into that Itinerary mobile app that I was talking about earlier in the session. So we'll be running that on the 4th of April, the same time again, 1 o'clock here in London. And you'll be with me on that day looking through how we can build itineraries and enhance your guest experience and give them all of the information they need at their fingertips. We're, I believe, almost out of time at the moment. So if you have had any questions that are not come through or we haven't been able to answer them, you're more than welcome to drop them in an email. You can send them over to myself, tom@opendestinations.com, and I'll be more than happy to help and respond to those. Thanks again for everyone spending their time and joining us this afternoon. We look forward to speaking to you again soon.